Do you like the way that the American League is lined up right now, where all of the divisional battles are going to happen early in the postseason? Or do you think that there should be some type of levers in place to try and prevent that, which can happen? I mean, MLB can do that if they wanted to and say, hey, you got to play a non-division or whatever.
I'm not really that fervent one way or the other on this topic. I understand what Todd and Eric are saying in that you don't want to see the Yankees and Red Sox in the first round in the best 2 of 3. That's not ideal. But at the same time, that's the way the playoff system is set up. I don't mind it. I understand, again, that the argument would be save those matchups for later. And then in the division series, the way it lines up right now, you'd also see a divisional matchup. But with the schedule more balanced now, not totally balanced, but more balanced than it used to be, this is okay with me.
And we also had this conversation, I feel like the Astros are going to bump one of these top 2 teams out. I don't see the Astros losing. Do you see the Astros getting in and maybe the Tigers or maybe even the Red Sox, after all the fight they've been through, are out of the playoffs?
Todd, for me or anyone else to predict anything at this point would be sheer folly. We've all spent the season trying to figure this thing out, and we've been all wrong every step of the way. 2 weeks ago, you would not have foreseen where we are right now. There's no way. Now, you're asking me which teams I think are in the best position. Cleveland and Detroit are in better positions than Houston simply because of the way the math shakes out. Houston not having the tiebreakers and being a game back of the Tigers. But that said, while Houston is not playing well and while Jeremy Pena seemingly is out the rest of the way, and without Alvarez in addition to that, if they sweep the Angels, if they somehow find the gumption to sweep the Angels, then maybe there's a way in for them, depending on what happens with Detroit and Boston. But it's going to be pretty difficult, it seems to me.
Do you see any indication that the trend of home or teams winning at home during a regular season continuing into the playoffs? Obviously, that's a crapshoot, but is there anything that's leading to that, like the drastic change this year in teams winning at home? And then, because the other year in the World Series, I think every road team won every game for all 7 games.
Eric, I haven't looked at it that closely, but if I recall correctly, the last time I looked at it, that home field advantage in the best 2 of 3 is not as meaningful as you might think. It's meaningful, of course. You would rather play at home. And if you're, let's say, San Diego or Seattle, which of course is not going to have to play in that round, one of these teams that plays really well at home, Philly is another one, then yeah, you'd rather have that. But I remember Texas going into Baltimore a couple of years ago and sweeping them without home field advantage. It just doesn't seem to be that big a deal. That was the division series I'm referring to. But there have been other cases, too, where the home field has not always won in this best of 3 round. And really what matters to me most, or what should matter most, it would seem, based on the way this game's been played forever, is the starting pitching and how it lines up. And that, too, is something that will be determined this weekend. If Detroit, for instance, does not clinch by Sunday, they've got to throw Skubal. They don't want to do that. They'd rather save them for game 1 of the wild card series if they get there. Same for Cleveland with Gavin Williams, and there are some other possibilities like that in play as well.
How about health? How about working? Because Todd and I talked about it. Going in here, you have those days off. The teams that aren't getting the bye that they usually do get the bye, the Dodgers, the Yankees, are they at a disadvantage based on where their team is healthy-wise? Because the Dodgers have spent the whole season trying to get healthy. Now they are healthy, and they still don't like some of the guys that they have in their bullpen who aren't hurt.
I don't know that it's affecting those teams as much. Certainly the Red Sox are one example. If Roman Anthony is indeed capable of playing in the playoffs, and we don't even know where he is in that recovery from the oblique, but if you could get the bye in their situation, it would be helpful. It's going to be helpful for the Phillies with Trey Turner. It would be helpful for the Blue Jays with Bo Bichette still on the mend. So there are individual circumstances where certainly the bye is helpful with regard to health. And Giancarlo Stanton was quoted last night as saying it's always helpful because there are guys who are banged up that we don't really know about, or we don't know the extent of how they are banged up. And it's also helpful for bullpen arms that need a little bit of a break, which is pretty much to say every bullpen arm going right now. So it's definitely viewed by teams as an advantage. At the same time, we have seen over the years, especially in 23, when you saw 2 wildcards make it to the World Series, that momentum you build in the playoffs can carry you through. And there's not really a correlation between late season success in the regular season and the playoffs, but there is once you win that first series, you start getting it rolling like the Rangers and the Diamondbacks did, and maybe then you have something.
I want to ask this question about Cal Raleigh. You maybe hinted on this a little while ago, but are we not talking enough about him getting to maybe 62 home runs and tying the record? Have we not gotten into that as much? I mean, I feel like you see it, but it's like, all right, whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's not being touted up enough.
It's funny, Todd. A few days ago, I started thinking we're not talking about Judge enough and what he's doing. And you might say, how can that be, Ken? He plays in New York. But because of Raleigh getting to 60, which is an incredible accomplishment, there has been, in my view at least, from what I've read and seen, a lot of attention on him. And a lot of people coming out and saying, how can this guy not be the MVP when he's a switch hitter with the most home runs by a switch hitter ever, when he's a catcher with the most home runs by a catcher ever, when he's doing all the things he's doing behind the plate? What I feel has gotten lost somewhat, and I know people might take exception to this, is the historic nature of Judge's season as well. And Jason Stark, who I believe you're going to have on later in the show, he'll point this out and he'll explain it better than I can because he wrote it in his column today. We are witnessing yet another all-time great season by a right-handed hitter in Aaron Judge. And while there's nothing as dramatic as Raleigh's 60 home runs, and it's certainly not being done by a catcher, it's being done by a right fielder, his advantages in average, on base, slugging are so distinct and so unique that that's something too. So we're going to be talking a lot about both these guys as the season ends. And if Raleigh gets to 62, that's another data point, I guess. I've said all along, there is no wrong choice for MVP. And I just don't know which way this is going to go. It's such an interesting race because in many ways, guys, this is apples and oranges. And that's what makes it so difficult to judge and evaluate. And it's also what makes it so interesting and fun to talk about.
Todd, Father, you and me grew up in Jersey. We liked to collect cards, but the way the process got was ridiculous. You open up a pack. There's a bunch of cards you don't care about. Then you want to get certain ones graded. Takes forever, right? Then you want to maybe sell one. It's such a to-do. Arena Club has been the solution for us.
Arena Club has been the solution for everybody. You go online, go to Arena Club, and you check out what they have. Put a little cash down, and you might get one of the best cards that you've ever seen in your life, an autographed card. And guess what? If you don't like the card, easily you could sell it back and make a little cash. You never know what to expect. It's a cool way of doing it. You're going to get a surprise every time. And if you're into cards, this is something you really need to get into.
Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use code FOUL like Todd Father's talking about with those slab packs. Every pack has a grail that's at least 20x the price of the pack. Check it out.